Welcome everyone to another broadcast of The Soul of the Everyman. All past shows are in podcast form. You can pick them up at ArtistFirst.com. We welcome your questions and comments. Hit us up at DJ@ArtistFirst.com. Now here they are, Michael and Margaret Lyons.
Thank you very much, Z-Man, and we are coming in hot. We are coming in hot tonight, aren't we?
I guess so.
Tonight is a hot night, but not temperature-wise.
Right, it's just energies.
Energies are very hot. Yeah. Just to kind of, put some framing on the situation we find ourselves all in. The world is in chaos.
Yes.
And yet here we are, an oasis of calm.
All righty.
And that's what we're going to do tonight. And tonight, we often will listen to some interesting poets. And poetry is it has to strike the heart. And so there's a lot of bad poetry out there, but occasionally we'll run across a gem. And this one I think will be familiar to many. And I think, Margaret, it kind of, it may do two things. It may provide someone some heart, some sort of succor, if you will, in the struggle. Because this poem is about being invincible. I liken it to the indomitability, if that's a word, of the human spirit, especially in the face of adversity. And it does both have a defiant as well as a triumphant tone to it in my mind. And I heard this many years ago, and I'd actually forgotten who had written it. The poet is William Ernst Henley, and it was really written in the latter part of the 19th century. It was in the late 1800s, right. And so it's old, but it also reminds us that adversity is nothing new to the human condition. From the very first step, of being driven out of the Garden of Eden, we've been in trouble ever since.
Yes. Yes, we have.
And yet we persevere. Sometimes in the face of what appear to be, it appears to be not just futile, but almost like pointless. It's like you can't win. There's no way. And I think this poem by William Ernst Henley speaks to that too. That despite all, we'll persevere. Why? Because we just will.
Right. We are more than the circumstances.
More than the circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
So it's poetry night on the Soul of the Everyman, and this one's in honor of Scott, who hates poetry night. But we don't pick bad poems. Right.
Well, poems are highly personal.
Poems. So without further ado, I will read it because you wanted me to read it, and then we will discuss. So the name of this poem is Invictus, which in Latin means invincible. Out of the night that covers me, black is the pit from pole to pole. I thank whatever gods may be for my unconquerable soul. In the fell clutch of circumstance, I have not winced or cried aloud. Under the bludgeoning of chance, my head is bloody, but unbowed. Beyond this place of wrath and tears looms but the horror of the shade, and yet the menace of the years finds and shall find me unafraid. It matters not how strait the gate, or charged with punishments the scroll. I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul.
Mm-hmm.
And it those lines were the ones I remember the best. Was I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul. But the expression here, as I mentioned, is of defiance, but it also speaks to the eternal.
Right. Well, it's under the weight of the pain and the changes of being alive down here. You can be brought to your knees.
Mm.
But as he said, his head is bloody but unbowed. Right there you can see the phrase, I believe, is the stiffening of the spine.
Mm.
Like, no, I will not be bowed. I choose to live. I'm not going to surrender to despair, because that is the pathway you can go down if you give in to the weight of this world.
I think you should expound. I like the fact that you picked up on the I choose. It is a choice in all of this, and it is in fact an exercise of choice. The only thing that will keep you from being conquered.
Well, it's again the understanding that your soul is unconquerable. The only time your soul is overshadowed is if you give permission for it.
Mm.
This, in all of the lines of the poetry, you can feel that decision's already made. I do not give over control of my soul to another. It's really the statement of ultimate freedom.
Exactly. I mean, that first line, he frames this night, which is really the world, and the world in its chaos and its the surrounding, what surrounds us all, not just William Ernest Henley, but all of us. He's speaking for all of us. And, I love the line, black is the pit from pole to pole. He in essence condemns the world, not because there isn't light in the world, but that, the overwhelming environment always seems to be pitted against all of us, for one reason or another, and you have nothing but your decision to persevere.
Well, it's taking back the control, the responsibility, the autonomy.
Yes.
The second line being, I thank whatever gods may be for my unconquerable soul.
Yes.
So whatever way you feel that your soul came to be, but it's something outside of yourself, but it's unconquerable, meaning he understood that the soul itself cannot be influenced or what's the word? Enslaved, perhaps is the better word, unless it is given permission to be under someone else. So, but that's the nature of your soul. And that just that second line shows that he understands the nature of the human soul. The fact that you are unconquerable.
Right. I mean, one of the other, the graphic that we put up on the website is sort of a generic, but I found other ones where there were some great resistors. Solzhenitsyn, Mandela was mentioned. A couple other people who are very famous, Gandhi could come to mind, whose only at times only characteristic was that of the resistance to domination, to basically say, you can take anything you want from me, you can take my life away from me, and yet it is still my decision to retain control of my soul. And so it also breaks the sort of, it's very easy to think of yourself as a body or as a person who can be entirely controlled externally. You can be made so that you can't move, you can't breathe, you can be put to death. But none of that, in fact, matters. The only thing that matters is whether or not you give over your control, your permission. You own, your ownership of yourself is indivisible. Your soul is entirely and uniquely yours. All other aspects, physical aspects, could be thought of being, you could think that they could take everything away from me. They could take everything, including my life, away from me. But it's always couched in the terms of do this or I'll take this. I'll imprison you. I'll make you do this. I'll put you in this situation. But it's always, always, always couched in terms of a question. Will you submit, or I'll do this? Will you submit, or I'll kill you? What Solzhenitsyn and Mandela and anyone who's had to endure, because that's all it really comes down to being. It comes down to enduring whatever, to the point of losing one's life, but never ever saying to the oppressor, I accept your domination. They only want that. The oppressor only wants your will, not your body, not your possessions, nothing. Those are all just means to an end.
It's a manipulation. And the expression that Henley is using in the poem of being in these conditions. What did he say? In the fell clutch of circumstance, I have not winced or cried aloud. Under the bludgeoning of chance, my head is bloody but unbowed. Allowing you to see that he is going through a very dark, dark night. And there is oppression. I mean, to feel that you are being hit again and again on your head. Usually a hit on the head means that they want to take control from you. Hit everywhere else is different, but a hit on the head directly, they want to stop your ability to choose. They resent it, and so the anger is lashing out on the fact that you, as an individual, can choose. So that's where the strike comes. And until that is acknowledged, until you internally acknowledge that you have the final say for your own soul, you have not explored what it truly means to be human, because that is truly a uniquely human quality.
To choose.
Consciously choose. When, frankly, as beings down here, we have the ability to learn from the past or project forward into the future. Most animals just don't do that.
No.
So that is a tool, and many times it can be used to manipulate fear. So it also goes back to how much does fear dominate your soul? Because if fear is the one that is forcing you to a choice, then you are not the master of your fate. Fear is.
Fear is. And fear, as we've said many times in the past, is always the future. You know, you don't fear the present. You fear the future. You fear what will happen and not knowing what will happen.
The unknown.
The unknown. Tyrants, despots, but even those who wish to just manipulate you either politically or economically or however, they use fear because, as you said, one of the defining characteristics of our people, our species, is the ability to project and the ability to say, well, you know, if I don't do this, something bad is going to happen. Whatever the bad thing, it can be something subtle, it can be something right in your face. So threats are often used. But even the threat, and maybe this is something that we need to talk about just for a moment. A threat is always given in terms of an equivocation or of a bargain. Someone threatens you. They don't strike you. They threaten to strike you. They don't attack you. They threaten to attack you. And then they give you a bargain. They say, I'll do this to you, and you know I can do this to you, whatever this is, and it's going to be bad, and you're going to hate it, or it's going to hurt you, or you can submit. So even in the most dire circumstance, there's always the bargain. There's always the carrot and the stick, and that's where you see it. If you just think for yourself for a second, is why? Why give me a way out? Why give me the way that if I say yes to them, whatever the stricture is, whatever the threat is, there's always this, if you submit, if you agree. Now, they may be lying. They'll say, I'll give you this if you do this, and you don't get it. But the point is they don't want your possession. They don't want your blood. They don't want you actually. They don't want to give you something or trade you something. They want the one precious thing, the thing that is yours beyond all other things, which is your will.
To give over your will, right? Is your will. What you give over to is the captain of your soul.
Yes.
Your will. But to give in to fear, that you're navigating the waters according to every fear that happens to pop up on the horizon, and it's avoiding it, which you think is rather interesting. Always to avoid something.
I'm reminded, of every tragedy, every play that you see. There's always this foreshadowing, perhaps, of some tragedy, and then the hero, or perhaps whomever has been given this choice, will change their course. They'll move to avoid what appears to be something that's going to happen, and oftentimes your move to avoid will bring you into the circumstance that you were trying to avoid. This is another way of guiding people. You present them with something that looks inevitable, that there's no way around this.
You mean manipulating people?
Yes, and what you're really doing is trying to guide this person into the place that you actually wanted them to be. Now, but the illusion of the information that you're given is also a method of control. The fell clutch of circumstance feels like prison, perhaps, or it feels like a direct and an obvious threat. Somebody waving a weapon in your face. But oftentimes, the threats that are presented to people are, in essence, half truths. Somebody will say, "Well, if you don't do this, this is going to happen," and it's absolutely inevitable. You're a fool if you don't do this. Everyone's doing this. These are the same arguments couched in perhaps a gentler way, because all they're really trying to do is get you to change your mind, right? Well, what's that? It's really saying that don't use your own senses and your own decision-making process. Use mine. I've already figured the whole thing out. And you have to do this and this and this. Well, this is Madison Avenue, and this is anybody who's trying to, in essence, as you said before, manipulate you, con you. All these things are often used. Wow.
All right.
I'm being manipulated. All these things are often used to remove your choice, to remove your ability to make an informed decision.
Yeah, which you find fascinating, frankly, because it on the outside it looks like someone wants something, or they are trying to get something from you, and it's couched in those terms. It's something that they want. So again, you're thinking of something to buy, something to trade, something to like or dislike.
Yes.
And that is that little bit of an edge when they want you to make a decision on whether you like something or not. And if they get you to like it, then it's like it's sliding in a little bit, going, okay, well, if you like this, then you must like this. Or so it goes a little bit deeper and a little bit deeper into convincing you that somehow, because you really like this, you want that.
Right, or you are this. They used to call it golden handcuffs. This sort of gradual. They're
handcuffs.
Well, let me just rephrase it. There are always, when you think of this sort of thing, when people are dominating you, there's always the obvious domination. Someone, as I said, points a weapon at you. Somebody slaps you in prison, and say, well, I would never agree to that. But it's this subtle, the very alluring form of enslaving your will, as you said, little by little. Well, if you like that, then you must like this. If you do that, then you're one of us. Then if you're one of us, you have to do these things, and it's this slow entrapment where you then, in essence, these golden handcuffs. They looked wonderful. They're made of gold. Just put them around your wrist and click, and then you're imprisoned. And sometimes the imprisonment can almost feel as though if you were to unlock these chains, that somehow you're abandoning yourself, or if you were to unlock these chains, you're leaving behind something very valuable. I mean, how could I possibly not do this? I love doing this so much, and it's what makes me who I am. This is another way of enslaving people. It's gradual, it's subtle, and it is not necessarily this. It doesn't appear, at least as Henley says, as being black from pole to pole. It looks like you are still autonomous and that you're still being told everything and you're making your own decisions, but you're not. And I think our hearts are oftentimes more sensitive to that. You go, it doesn't feel, I mean, I don't know why, but this isn't fulfilling. This isn't who I really am. I try to say one thing and I get shut down, or I try to express my own opinion. I say, well, I don't think that's, and you get shut down and you get shouted down. These types of things, where in essence you get thrown into the outer darkness if you don't conform to every little thing. Societies do these things, and
Yep.
cultures do these things.
Yep.
These are also, in essence, they're blows to the head in another way. You can't do that and be one of us. And you can feel the wrongness of it, but it's very difficult, especially if you're young or if you don't know other things, to navigate your way out of that, because it feels as though you're denying, your identity. But Tolle would say that was a false identity. That's not something you should have identified. That's not consciousness. That's not being. That's, the ego. And when people are trying to dominate you, they're often trying to dominate you through through the gateway of the ego.
Well, yes. Going back to what you were saying with the golden handcuffs.
Yes.
What I liken it to more is the gilded cage.
Yes, that's a better analogy. The gilded cage.
The gilded cage, where isn't this lovely? You can be in this space, and it's beautiful, and you get enough to eat, and it's warm, and all you have to do is just stay in this particular space, and don't come out of it.
And don't protest, and don't try to escape. And
it's you can decorate it any way you want. You can have the things you want in there, but you leave.
You're a pet, and you're not free.
You are not free.
Yeah, yours is better, because mine was like too BDSM or something. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, hers is much better. Let's go with gilded cage, because golden handcuffs does have a connotation. Yeah. Rhinestone handcuffs? No, never mind. You know what? On that note, let's go back to the studio, take off our rhinestone handcuffs, and free ourselves, and we'll come back on the other side and we'll talk more about the master of our fate.
Rick Riordan fans, love mythology with plenty of action and humor? Destroyer's Blood is for you. The new fantasy novel by award-winning author Michael Lines is book 1 of the adventures of Dev Kalian, the Blood series. Follow Dev and his magic sword Betrayer as they are suddenly attacked and forced to return to Olympus to fight in a war they want no part in. The world of men and gods is about to be destroyed by Zeus's ancient foe, and only Dev and Trey can stop him. The conflict never stops, and the amazing twist will have you on the edge of your seat. Act now while the ebook is on sale for only 99 cents. Destroyer's Blood is available on Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble, iTunes, Kobo, and fine e-tailers everywhere. And while you're there, get the free prequel, It's in the Blood, available for a limited time.
The wait is over. First Blood, Book 2 of the Blood series is out. Your favorite bad boy thief Dev is back, and the beautiful and deadly Trey is right there with him. She is sharp, sexy, and full of surprises. Their adventures continue as a new power arises to threaten the world. The heart of creation is under attack, and time is definitely not on their side as they battle against their enemies' undead hordes. Can they unlock the hidden power that can defeat him, or will his forces draw first blood? Get all 3 installments in the series. Book 0, It's in the Blood. Book 1, Destroyer's Blood, and the new release, Book 2, First Blood, today. Available in ebook and paperback format on Amazon, Kobo, Apple, and most other fine e-tailers.
Hi, this is Hannah Ruth from the band Wild Hum. Check out our new Americana Soul CD, Wild Hum, at our website, wildhummusic.com. And you are listening to the ArtistFirst Radio Network. Thank you.
There is a Reaper is the story of 5-year-old Christopher Aaron and his life-changing struggle with leukemia. Winner of both the Indie Bragg Medallion as well as the reader's favorite silver medal for memoir, There is a Reaper has more than 100 Amazon book reviews and a 5-star rating. It has been described as life-changing, spiritual, a must-read. Just released on Audible and iTunes, this memoir is also available in paperback and on Amazon Kindle for only 99 cents. Get your copy of this life-changing memoir today.
The Fat Man Gets Out of Bed is the latest book from Michael Lyons, the award-winning author of There is a Reaper. Featuring 13 original stories, this wide-ranging collection has everything. Forbidden love, gods versus demigods, weird invading aliens, sexy seductive artificial intelligence, and unusual passion between the living and the dead. All set amidst fantastic worlds of pain and loss and boundless joy. From the sublime to the macabre to the bittersweet, The Fat Man Gets Out of Bed will leave you breathless with laughter, brimming with tears, trembling with suspense. Available now on Amazon.com, Google Play, iTunes, Kobo, and fine e-tailers everywhere.
Thank you for joining us on The Soul of the Everyman on the ArtistFirst Radio Network. Back to your hosts, Michael and Margaret Lyons.
Thank you very much, C-Man, and we are Invincible.
Yes, we are.
Yes, we are. And we, not because our circumstances are any different or any worse or any better, but we have faced, difficult circumstances with Christopher and in other cases. But all of us do. And we were talking a little bit more about the in essence, the more subtle forms of manipulation, but oftentimes life is enough. What happens to us in our lives, we say this often, we haven't said it lately, but nobody gets off the planet alive, and nobody gets off the planet unscathed. We had a show about that, some months ago. We all go through trials. There are those who try to, in essence, dominate or to control. But even without any of the human agency of domination and control, we are enslaved to reality. Mm-hmm. Our bodies break down. Circumstances of the world happen. There's accidents, there's wars, there's pestilence, there's famine. There's all kinds of things. And in the second half of Henley's poem, he refers to that. He says, beyond this place of wrath and tears looms but the horror of the shade. Now, what he's saying in 19th century language is that the world is a crazy place, and then you die.
Oh,
it's like the world sucks, and then you die. Well, that was basically Henley, except more modern. Beyond this place of wrath and tears, all life is suffering. This is Buddha. You just die, but none of that, that realization that yes, all life is suffering, and the end of physical life is the grave. He comes to sort of a similar conclusion here, in that he says, yet the menace of the years and by menace, again, he's talking about circumstances, things that happen, things that come into your life, disease, whatever it may be, because these things come with time.
Right.
Shall find me unafraid. So you again you can decide to be unbreakable. Each one of these things that enters your life, whatever the circumstance may be, you don't let it define you. You don't let it take away your being state. You almost have to internalize it and say, yeah, right now things are good. And you don't say, and the next moment they may be bad. You just say, things are good, I'm going to be here. But when things turn bad, they always will. You have to accept them in the same way, totally would say, you accept them in the same way that you accepted the good things. You say, yeah, maybe you can say it, things are bad, but I have to accept them and be unafraid, be in them, be where I am right now, and make the choice of every moment, which is to live and be and not let the moment make your identity the moment, or your identity the fear of the next moment, or your identity the regret of the past moment. All that is enslaving your will.
Right. Right. And be aware that what's happening around you, and we've had many discussions about this, circumstances around you do not define who you are. The last couple lines where he makes a statement of, I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul. His identity is stated right there. It comes right back to understanding that how or who you identify yourself is at the core of this. If you identify with fear, that you are fearful, then, as we said, that is what is going to define you. But when you decide that you are autonomous, you have free will, you make the decision of the next step. You may not control the world or even control the outcome, but you control your next step. And usually, even if you can't take the step, you're in that kind of a restrained mode. You choose your response to your circumstance.
And every dominator wants your response. They want your will to be theirs.
It's fascinating, really, because when you think of it, this is sort of, because we are social beings, we want to please other people. We want to be included. We want that heart-to-heart connection. That's really what we all yearn for.
Yes.
And when manipulation comes in, where circumstances are put to you or presented to you a certain way so that your choices are narrowed down. In other words, if you want to be considered a good person in the family, you must do these things. But if you are a bad person, if you're the black sheep, you go off your way and you're doing other things. But, okay, you're the black sheep, so we still accept you, but you really should do this. This kind of manipulation is something that humans have done to humans from the beginning.
Yeah, true.
And it's something that we need as autonomous beings to evolve in a broader sense. In other words, to come to a point where you respect the life that's around you, the people that are around you. You give it space. You give it give circumstances space. In other words, you don't identify with what the circumstance is. It is something that is happening around you, appearing around you. But it's not you. Even though people are telling you it looks like you, this is what you look like, you shouldn't look like this. Understand that that's a manipulator. And who you actually are is so much more than the circumstances presented to you. That's where you begin to fight for your autonomy. You fight for the ability to choose. Or rather, how do I say this? That ability has been given to you at birth.
Right. You have to fight to hold true to it.
Right. To hold true to who you actually are.
Right. I mean, the line you just said, I am the master of my fate. I think it's one thing I would say as a clarification is people say, well, no, I'm not. I have to do this. I have to do that. All these. Yes, you may not be able to do anything about your circumstances. You may not be able to do anything about your economic situation, whatever it may be. You may feel that is you are trapped, but you never are. And here's why. Margaret said it earlier, and I'll say it again. You always have one thing. You always have the ability to decide what your reaction is going to be. You get that one. Every circumstance comes to you in the moment of your realization of it. We try to look to the future to predict what will happen. We try to look to the past to learn from what will happen. But in fact, everything happens in the present moment. And in the present moment is when you always have the ability to master your fate, which means that you decide what you will do or not do. You decide how you will react or not react. And that's it. No one, no thing can take that away from you.
Right.
And that's the thing that you have to hold true to. The autonomy is always yours. But if you give it away and you habituate yourself into saying, oh, well, I can't decide that and I can't decide this, you're telling you're in essence deciding that you don't have the power, if you know what I mean. You're abdicating your decision actively.
We can actually go down the road of who is the you that is deciding that you can't do this? Who are you? And who are you subdividing yourself into that says you can't do this? It's like when someone says, "Oh, I don't like me." Yeah, well, okay, wait. Who is the I and who is the me? Because you're the same, you're the whole. What is the definition of the I that is deciding that it doesn't like the me?
And tearing yourself into pieces and talking to yourself about yourself.
Right. And I find that mechanism is used all the time to get you to agree to the fact that you actually don't like you. Because you don't like this me part that you think you're perceiving. You think you're perceiving. That's the other interesting thing. Your brain's translating everything that's coming into your senses a certain way. So this is what you think you're perceiving. It doesn't mean that this is the true you.
And that's the exploit. That's what manipulators use. They try to divide you against you. You know, the old phrase is divide and conquer. But in this case, they're trying to divide you into two the part of you which judges you, and in essence, it bifurcates, or at least into two, and saying, I don't like me. Well, once you've done that, you've divided your power, and you've pitted yourself against yourself. And if you judge that you are not something that you like, which when you say it that way, sounds kind of crazy. It is. It is crazy, because if you divide yourself against yourself, there's another phrase, wonderful one, which says, a house divided against itself cannot stand. If you split yourself into two, and we do it all the time, we have the voice in our head telling us that we're not good enough. Well, who is the voice and who's not good enough? It's all you. And it's vaster than that. The ego can split itself into a million pieces, but the you, the consciousness that is you, encapsulates and encompasses and is vaster than all of that. No part of that consciousness can say that it can divide. It is. It just is. You are. You am. However, the mind and the ego and the body and all these other pieces of that consciousness can start to fight with each other, or in essence, as you said, the mind interprets and then abstracts and then divides, and it weakens itself.
If you can sort of look at it this way, I'm just going to turn it around a little bit. Mind is basically taking snapshots every instant of what you believe you are seeing. And then these snapshots all get lined up one after the other, kind of like the old time the way they used to do
flip book.
Flip books, yeah.
Yeah.
But that's how we are perceiving time. And this is the image that you're snapping happens to be from a certain point of view, a certain angle. If you shift the angle, it all shifts in its form. You, as the person that chooses, can flip your point of view. You can shift your angle so that you can see it another way.
Yeah.
And if you are looking in the mirror and just saying, oh, I see this, and you keep going back and all you see is this one thing, like you are stuck in one position that allows this idea that it's okay to hate you. You haven't even seen the backside of you. How can you hate you? You don't know yourself completely.
Exactly. And a very good way of putting that is, when we talk about the life review, we also say like this: you never know what good or what influence you have on others or on the world, and you never will know in this existence. Similarly, the perception you have of yourself and of others is limited. The mind doesn't take that. The mind says, I see everything. And then it makes the story up. And the story is complete and whole. I know everything about the world. I know everything about the situation. I know what this one's thinking. I know what that one's thinking. I know what they think about me. I know what I think about them, blah, blah, blah. And then it starts to talk to itself and divide itself further and further. That whole process is, in essence, a self-manipulation. And it can be exploited. It can be exploited by others that want to dominate you, but it can be exploited by circumstances. Something bad happens, and the mind immediately says, oh, these bad things always happen to me because I'm bad and I do. You can hear the whole litany. I'm always unlucky. I never get the good things. Everyone's always telling me what to do, and that whole thing of in essence allowing circumstance, which can happen to anybody and happens to everybody at one time or another, to personalize it, to make it, oh, this is happening to me, and it always happens to me, and it makes me this, and it makes me that. To personalize it and internalize it is to rip oneself into pieces, and in essence to allow, instead of your autonomy and your power to react, to be completely taken away from you. This happens, and I do that. It's no longer a decision; it's a reaction, and it's not a reaction in thought or in presence. It's a reflexive reaction. The thing happens, and you instantly say, "I'm bad, and this always happens to me, and everyone's always against me, and it's because of this one's fault and that one's fault," and you go through all your litany of years. Well, if that sounds familiar, it's because oftentimes people will use their power against themselves to spin these stories about themselves when it was just a sort of a random event. Something happened. A situation came into your life. You have that moment to say, it's now my reality. I thought I wanted to do this, I wanted to do that, I was going to do these things, but now I'm presented with something that I must do different things. I was going to go out today and it started to rain. That sounds very innocent. I was going to go somewhere this afternoon and I had a heart attack instead. That sounds horrible. But those things, the circumstances, happen to anyone and everyone. And yet you have still your reaction,
Right.
And that's all you have. If you seize that and hold true to that power, then whatever circumstance comes, it doesn't have no effect on you. Of course it has an effect on you, but it has no way of taking your autonomy and your power away. You say to every circumstance, no matter what the circumstance, I accept it, and I will decide what to do next.
Right.
If something wonderful happens, you say, I accept it, and I decide what to do next. Something horrible happens, you say, I accept it. It is reality. The fact that we try to deny it is insanity. It is reality. Whatever the reality is, it comes in. It comes to you in the present moment. Not from far away, not from in the present moment it comes to you. And you have in the present moment, you have that next moment. And the next moment you say, I accept it. And I will do this next. I will react this way. And maybe that doesn't do anything. Maybe it has no effect whatsoever. The situation comes, it gets worse. I accept this. I will react this way. And if you practice that engine of taking in the moment of presence and then reacting to the moment of presence, you see you have tremendous power because you always get to react, no matter what, until your last breath, until the last energy of your body escapes. You get to react every time.
You get to choose. And when you say I accept what this is, it doesn't mean you're giving up.
Or agreeing.
All right. You're not agreeing to it, but what you say is it is what it is that's happening right now. You're not putting any spin on it. This is what is unfolding right now. Just like that.
And there's something wonderful in there, what you don't do, which is you don't say I like it, I don't like it. You don't judge it.
Right. I mean, frankly, whether you like it or not, that wonderful phrase.
Yes. Like it or not.
Life happens.
Life happens. It is what it is.
Mm-hmm. And we've all gone through things where we understand what those mean. Those phrases are something that we have all thought of and all used. So it's understanding that at this moment, right now, you can choose be the decider of how you respond to something or exploring the myriad of possibilities.
You are the captain of your soul.
Yes, indeed you are. And we've reached the end of our show.
I'll accept that.
All right. And I'm Margaret.
And I'm Michael, and I will react to that as well and say, that's wonderful. Thank goodness.
And thank you
and
for
thank
listening.
You for listening.